This podcast is powered by the pros at Paschal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPaschal.com.
Big day of track and field, starting the first of 4 days remaining in Eugene, Oregon today. You know, there have been, I think it's 4 Razorbacks that qualified earlier in the week. What are we looking at today in terms of events and maybe the next couple of days too?
Well, yeah, the first round, 400-meter hurdles, you know, Rachel Glenn, who's an Arkansas redshirt junior this year, she qualified in the high jump Monday night. And then she's very versatile, obviously, and very talented. She's running in the heats of the 400 hurdles tonight. And Track and Field News projects her to make the team. Now, we'll see. They didn't project her to make the high jump team, and she did. And so she has it. Now, this is not a final. This is just the first round. So she's got to advance tonight and then advance out of the semis and then get to the final and place in the top 3. But, I mean, she's got a legitimate chance to qualify for the Olympics in 2 very different events. You know, we're not talking about not that I'm not saying it's easy to do like in the 100, the 200, the 5K, and 10K, but we're talking about a field event and a running event. That's pretty impressive if she can do it. And then you got Shamir Little is also in the 400 hurdles. She ran at A&M, but she's trained at Arkansas for many years. She's listed as a volunteer assistant coach. She ran in the 400 and made the final, but this is her bread and butter, mean potatoes, I think she called it the other night. The 400 hurdles, so those are two athletes with Razorback ties to watch. They've got the women's 3,000-meter steeplechase final, and Chrissy Gear, who ran at Arkansas. She trains out at altitude in Flagstaff, Arizona now, but she was the U.S. champion last year in this event. Now, she didn't run really great the other night, Monday night in the qualifying round, but she did advance, so we'll see what she can do. But she is the defending champion. And then you've got Tara Davis-Woodall, who trains here. If people know who Hunter Woodall is, you know, was Arkansas sprinter. That's his wife, and she's the world indoor champion in the long jump. So she'll be the favorite. Again, it's just a qualifying round, and you know, you got some others with Arkansas ties. UAPB Golden Lion, Caleb Snowden will be in the high jump qualifying round. This year he got second, and I think it was third in the high jump outdoors. But he's an All-American from UAPB, so give a little shout out to the Lions. So yeah, if people want to tune in to watch when you're going to have Lance Lang in the 200 meters, he's definitely got a shot to advance. He's a Razorback senior this year. Probably don't need to name everybody because you don't have that long a show. For my segment's not that long, but if people want to tune in, they're going to see some great track and field, and they're also going to see some folks with Arkansas ties.
I know you wrote about Talia Brooks in your most recent piece in the Democrat-Gazette, making the U.S. team for the first time in her 3rd attempt at the trials, and is going to be competing in the heptathlon. And this is somebody that we see on the video board and on the football field and on the basketball court all the time at Arkansas games, and it's a face I think that everybody is familiar with and someone they've already been rooting for the last 6-7 years, and excited to see her that she's going to be going to Paris. But man, reading your piece, the family was so optimistic about her opportunity that they already bought tickets to fly over to Paris for the Olympics even before she was in Eugene at the qualifiers. And she certainly made them look like they'd made the right choice.
Yeah, we talked to several of the athletes last week before the trials, and Talia known Talia for a long time and really think the world of her. Really happy for her because, you know, she's 29, which for an athlete is getting a little on the old side, right? That for a regular person, you know, that's very young. And she's had a lot of injuries and different things. She had 7 surgeries on her left knee, unbelievable to me.
Wow.
And it's a tough event, you know, it's 7 events really. And to get through that, and she had some PRs and what she said were some weak events, but you're really happy for her. Yeah, we were just talking. She was saying that, you know, obviously she wanted to make the Olympics the last time in 2021 when she had the misfortune to get overheated in Eugene when it was just ridiculously and I guess historically hot, like 110 degrees and much hotter on the field even, and she was overcome by the heat. But she said, you know, the Tokyo Olympics, it seems hard to remember when that long ago, but back then spectators weren't allowed at the Olympics. They're so very limited. And so a lot of her family couldn't have gone to the Tokyo Olympics. And so she was saying, if I'm only going to make an Olympics once, I guess what she said is, if I have a choice, I want to make the Paris Olympics rather than the Tokyo Olympics, because a lot of my family members and friends can come. And she talked about how she's been getting texts that, hey, I just booked my flight to Paris, and I kind of laughed and said, well, I don't have confidence in you, but it is the Olympic trials. And but she said, yeah, it does put a little pressure on you, but also helps your confidence that they have so much belief in you. And so thankfully it came through, and so those folks that booked flights, they don't have to change them or try to get refunds or go to Paris, which is obviously a great trip, whether it's the Olympics or not. But now they can go over there and hopefully enjoy Paris and also get to see Talia compete. And she said her grandmother, who had not seen her compete in person since she was a senior in high school, so we're talking like I think 2013 or 2012, and was there in Eugene. And I assume she'll be going to Paris too. So that's awesome. We see the athletes out there on the track competing, but really there's a whole team behind them of, coaches and trainers and people that help them with strength and conditioning. And then there's the other team, which is their family, and that's supportive and helped them when they were very young, probably took them to practices and all those things. So you're really happy for the athlete, but you're also happy for their family and friends, obviously.
Bob, one of the conversations we have so often, even throughout the entire athletic calendar, in terms of recruiting to programs at Arkansas or anywhere else. And, you see a lot of kids that say, well, I'm committing to this place because it's going to prepare me most for the next level. And when they're saying that, they're saying for the NFL or Major League Baseball or the NBA. And you want to project out to those prospects or potential student athletes of yours that you can win while you're at school as well. And obviously track and field has 51 national championships to promote. But when you're talking about like the pinnacle of track and field, now, I know that they want to be professionals, but we always think of track and field in terms of the Olympics. This feels like the pinnacle of the sport. How important is it to Arkansas track and field, both in terms of men's and women's, to promote or be able to show, yes, we're going to win while you're here, but we're also going to prepare you for the Olympics, and look at all these Razorbacks or former Razorbacks that are in Paris right now?
I think it's huge for recruiting, and it shows that they're not just, quote, using the athlete for college purposes. It's kind of like in baseball, like what if Dave Van Horn and Matt Hobbs had pitched Hagen Smith, 8 innings or 9 innings every game. I'm sure he could have pitched more innings, but that probably ruins his arm, right? And so one thing Arkansas, I think, does a really good job of on both men's and women's is, the athletes, a lot of these are transfers, and they just do a lot better at Arkansas than they did at their other school. Not knocking the other schools, but so I think you see the development side of it, and then they also, in an Olympic year, they know it's a longer season. They got to take care of these kids. And the Olympics, it's like the Super Bowl, but imagine if the Super Bowl was only played once every 4 years. Now, this is 3 years because of 2020 there wasn't no Olympics. There was 2021. But, yeah, it's definitely the pinnacle. And it's the one time probably that track and field can outshine, football and basketball and baseball, at least for 3 weeks or whatever it is in Paris. That'll be a bigger deal than what's going on in Major League Baseball and NFL training camps and whatever else might be going on around the world, NASCAR races or something. And so, it's a big deal. I think Arkansas has had 57 Olympians, men and women, and now they've got over 60. And, the Jamaican trials are starting this weekend. Arkansas has there are 13 former or current Razorbacks competing in the Jamaican trials, which is a little different than the U.S. because they'll select some athletes based on trials, but like Jaden Hibbert, for example, former Razorback, he was so good he only jumped 1 year at Arkansas. He's the best jumper in the world. Doesn't mean he's going to win the gold medal. We'll see. But if he had an injury or, I don't know, just a bad day at the Jamaican trials, well, they're going to send him to the Olympics. They're not idiots. But and you have them at the British games or trials, or whatever they're called, and other places. And you're going to see probably 10 different countries with athletes to Arkansas ties at the Olympics. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Obviously, the majority of those come from the United States, and Jamaica's been a hotbed for Arkansas. It's great for the kids. They get to come to the U.S., go to college, and compete at a high level. And then obviously it's great for Arkansas to have these elite athletes. So, Yeah, you're going to see a whole lot of Arkansas in Paris, one way or the other.
Biggest story that we've been hitting on has been the College World Series championship by Tennessee, but that's obviously now been, totally overshadowed by the Texas A&M Texas situation with Jim Schlossnagle leaving less than 24 hours, I think, after the game was over in order to go take over the Texas Longhorns. And of course, now I wonder if the reaction would be different if he had not answered that question from Richard Zane the way that he did, which was basically deflection and gaslighting. I know he apologized to the writer yesterday in his introductory press conference with Texas, but that also feels like one reason why this has gone down. He asked a question that was perfectly legitimate, Bob, and I would imagine that'd be a question you wouldn't mind asking too, though at the same time you kind of expect maybe you get the same kind of answer.
Yeah, I didn't see the whole press conference, but I saw the video of that, and I thought the writer, who I don't know personally, but I know people who know him, and I certainly respect him and his work. And, yeah, that was a question that had to be asked. And you don't know if a coach is going to hang around, like, after the presser and talk to you. So sometimes you kind of have to ask that question in front of everybody, so to speak. And I thought he asked in a respectful way. He didn't even mention Texas by name. And why Jim – and I can't believe Jim Schlossnagle didn't know that question was coming, or it very well could come. And I get that they just lost the national title and he's upset. But in his mind, I think we know at this point he knew he was taking the Texas job, right? So he doesn't have to sit there and say, well, gee, I'm glad you asked that. I'm going to be the Longhorns are hiring me tomorrow. Screw the Aggies or whatever. I get you don't answer it like that. But why couldn't you have said, we just had a really tough loss. I'm really proud of our team, but that's, a very disappointing way to end a great season, and I'm not going to talk about other jobs. I can't just say that. And why don't you almost have that, printed out, win or lose? Because you're going to get the question win or lose, I think. And so, and then not only does he do that, not only does he not handle it that way, he basically, I've watched it several times to see what I misunderstand. He basically pledges his undying love to the Aggies, right? This is where I want to be. And the whole part about leaving his family behind, I don't know what that was about. I guess I'd have to do some research there. Could he not bring the family with him to College Station if he wanted to? He's talking about, kids or parents, or I don't know what he was talking about, but he acted very indignant, like he had somehow been wronged. And of course, we know, obviously this was in the works for a long time. You don't leave A&M for Texas in 20 hours, and he obviously had a pre-existing relationship with Crystal Connie, the Texas AD. They were together at TCU and all that. And I've seen a lot of TCU fans posting things about, he acted like he's at TCU and he's up for the A&M job. I'm not interested in any other jobs, but I get it. Coaches move around. You're not going to necessarily confirm that you're going to leave in place A for place B. But, yeah, that probably couldn't have been handled much worse. He's obviously a great coach. I'm sure he'll win big at Texas. He might win a national title, might win more than one. I don't know. But that thing's probably going to, follow him for the rest of his career.
Anybody ever answer a question to you by finishing his answer with "print that," the way that Schlossnagle did? It reminded me a little bit of, who was it? I think Lee Elia, Chicago Cubs manager. Maybe you remember his famous rant in which I think he basically called Cubs fans bums, the ones that were showing up for day games because they didn't have jobs. And I think he screamed at the end of it, "Print that." Anybody ever tell you to print that?
I don't know if exactly those terms, but I do remember that Lee Elia presser. I don't know if I was watching. I watched a lot of Cubs games back then. Yeah, basically calling your fan base a bunch of unemployed bums. Not the greatest marketing tactic. Sometimes you hit a nerve with coaches. I always, whenever a question, if it's whether it's job security or like a questionable coaching decision that in hindsight looks pretty bad, but at the time, you say, well, I understood what he was going for there. It just didn't work out. But I always try to be respectful and think about their feelings and what they're going through and not asking an I think there's a professional, I think there's a professional way to ask a question. I'll see things on social media where people say, why didn't you just ask them, this or that? And it's in a very disrespectful way. And you're thinking, well, number one, that's just a bad way to be. And two, you're not going to elicit an answer. And you may not if you ask in a respectful way, but your odds of getting a decent answer are much better But yeah, I've definitely had coaches ticked off at me before. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody say print that. I guess I chose his age because he's still talking about Prince.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.